Willie Bibbiani, Crave Online. Hello. Hello, John Krasinski.
How are you?
Well, I'm good, thank you.
Fantastic guy.
Thank you.
We were just talking about the idea that one day they're going to remake Rudolph, and children just won't know what it is.
I know.
And you had the cynical version that it's going to be Rudolph the Red-Nosed Ranger.
It certainly is.
Which is just like an assassin with a red nose that's just shooting everyone.
Poppin' caps.
I like it.
You wrote and starred in Promised Land.
I did.
Yeah, where did that start? What was the first thing you wanted to write a script about?
Well, you know, it is my first script, so I had the idea about 2 years ago. I really wanted to write about American identity. And I guess what that means for me is my dad grew up in a town just outside of Pittsburgh, a steel mill town. And just like any industry town, it fell on hard times. His dad had multiple jobs, and they didn't have much. And I remember being a very ignorant kid and saying, so does that mean your childhood was awful? And he said, no, it was phenomenal. We had a strong sense of community. We were there for each other, and we had this faith that tomorrow was going to be a better day. I wanted to tell a story about a community like that. I think that that is an ideal and a version of the country that we have moved so far away from that I thought that we should bring it back and tell a story about these people who still exist, these communities that still exist and are still proud and still making very big decisions. And so the idea of natural gas became the backdrop after we had understood what we wanted to tell about this community.
This movie I thought was really interesting to me because I felt like it was a Frank Capra movie in which the main character was like the villain in a Frank Capra movie. You were Claude Rains and Mr. Smith was watching.
I mean, it was, we talked about Capra. I mean, Gus talked a lot about Capra, but the role I looked at as a Kazan role, you know, growing up watching these guys who had that streak of self-loathing and that internal conflict, but they were your protagonist.
You get a script. Was it called Promised Land when you
It was, yeah.
And it has Matt Damon and John Krasinski's names on it. What did you expect?
Not this. I mean, not this, but I had recently, before this, worked with John Krasinski, and I had no idea he was writing this, so I kind of couldn't believe my eyes at the scope of the story and what they were tackling and sort of the elegance of the script, quite honestly. I felt like it was funny. I felt like the people were real, that it didn't live in a black or white zone. It was very gray, and I was just really inspired by it.
What surprised you most about Gus Van Sant? He's got such an iconoclastic image.
Yeah, he, just how low-key he is and how trusting. You know, he says very few words on set. He kind of only says something if something's really amiss, and he puts a lot of faith and trust in the actors, and I think it's why his movies feel so organic, because he doesn't come in and fill your head with a lot of ideas. He really wants to know what you're going to bring, and because of that, you really take ownership over your performance and your character.
This idea of actors being like, no, I'm going to direct is a little ridiculous in my book, unless you really have what it takes. I mean, it's just not sort of a foregone conclusion that you should direct if you've acted. And the reason why is because there are people like Gus Van Sant out there. So unless you can do what he does, leave it to the big people, the big kids and the pros, and let them do their work.
When you're writing a role, did you know you were going to act this role from the beginning?
Yeah.
Is there a temptation to give yourself more speeches or less so that you're not overdoing it? How do you modulate that?
The temptation is to make something that you've never done before. Both of us, I mean, because John had never had a chance to play the kind of role that he plays in this movie, and we were both able to kind of use the baggage that we brought into the project to kind of try to confound expectations a little bit.
When you're writing with John, when you have a disagreement, do you ever just whip out the Oscar?
What I actually did is I wasn't that obvious. I just wore it as a necklace, so I never mentioned it. It was just always there.
What's the name of the drinking game you do in the film?
Absolute Madness.
Is that a real thing?
I don't think so. It kind of doesn't really make any sense when you break it down. It seems like in that moment, she can tell he's lying to her because he keeps saying he's going to be around for a bit, he's going to be around for a bit. I mean, it's a real thing in that bar, but I think it's a real thing that they do to people who aren't locals to get them really drunk and spend their money.
What is it? You have to drink like 8 pints and then...
Shots.
8 shots.
Yeah.
And then beat the bartender at darts?
Yeah, but of course your dart is not even going on the
dartboard.
dartboard.
Are you method? Did you try this with Matt just to see what?
Did we
what
do that many shots?
Did you?
We did.
We're a $9 billion company. Do you know what we're capable of? Do you?